My friends, on a moonless night, the Strait of Hormuz is a dark choke point through which a fifth of the world's oil flows. The silence of the early morning is broken only by the rhythmic, almost hypnotic sound of the blades of the American Apache attack helicopter patrolling the territorial waters of Oman. And suddenly the telemetry fails, a violent vibration consumes the engine, and the sound of the main rotor gives way to deadly silence. The impact against the salty water throws 2 tons of armored metal into the abyss of the Persian Gulf. At this very moment, 2 elite US Army pilots are floating in Iran's backyard. The world waits for a rescue helicopter that will never come, because what happened next changed the history of wars forever. The promise contained in the new military doctrine was validated in the 2 most tense hours of the 21st century. And the aid sent to Hormuz was not human, it was armored algorithm. While the antennas of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard tried to triangulate the position of the survivors to turn them into bargaining chips in international negotiations, the United States Navy activated a silent mechanism. A robotic boat, guided entirely by artificial intelligence, glided through the waters without a single crew member needing to step aboard, in the world's most heavily guarded corridor of death. My friends, the thumbnail of the video you clicked on today is not a work of fiction. It's an exact record of the moment when human rescue missions were retired. And to understand the importance of this scenario, you need to see the AH-64 Apache not just as a helicopter, but as the most lethal machine ever built to operate on the front lines. In the Persian Gulf theater of operations, this armored beast was transformed from a tank hunter into a true drone killer and guardian of commercial ships. It flies low, exactly within the threat zone where regular radars are blind. And losing a platform like this in the middle of the strait, isn't that dangerous? What really caused the fall of this metal giant? Before I tell you, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and leave a like on the video. It takes a lot of work to make this, my friends. The clock struck 7:30 p.m. local time. There in the Strait of Hormuz, it would be metallic debris swallowed by the turbine after intercepting an enemy drone. Or a catastrophic mechanical failure at the heart of the aircraft. Was it a lucky shot from Iran? The answer will shatter all your expectations. The mystery about the cause of the accident remains unresolved in the intelligence community. The Revolutionary Guard rushed to Tehran television to spread the rumor that their plane failed. A failure or a plane failure? Plane? Or a plane failure? Failure. Absolute control over the 20 most dangerous kilometers of water on the current map. But the factual analysis is still inconclusive. The Apache was operating near the coast of Oman, that's true. Completely out of range of Tehran's conventional systems, that's also true. Well, the official investigation was looking into whether the engine had ingested debris from a destroyed drone moments before, or if the constant strain of staying aloft had taken its toll in an engineering failure. While Iran was racing against time, preparing posters staking their claim with the faces of possible hostages, the silent Western machine was already tracking the telemetry of the ejection seats. Now stop and think with me. If Iran really controlled the Strait of Hormuz with its fast boats, would they have allowed an American unmanned vessel to enter their firing zone and extract the pilots without firing a single shot? Tehran's naval strategy is based on the concept of asymmetric saturation. Faced with the technical need to build a traditional navy with destroyers and cruisers capable of facing the Western fleet, the Ayatollah's regime put all its bets on the so-called Mosquito fleet of the Revolutionary Guard. It's a swarm of hundreds of fast attack boats, cheap, agile, and armed with rockets and light short-range missiles. The function of these swarms of sea hyenas is to surround cargo ships, lay mines, and create a minefield. Once launched, a defensive navy operates through targeting objects in the water. It's an extortion tactic designed to maintain Tehran's strategy against the American autonomous concept and ensure the regime retains a flow of cash even under severe sanctions. And the moment the Apache touched the water, Tehran launched dozens of these fast boats from its island bases to hunt them down. Time was running against the soldiers' lives. 2 hours floating in waters infested with magnetic mines and treacherous currents. Because in practice, what happens is that every minute a traditional manned rescue helicopter or manned search boat stays hovering over that area, it stops being a rescuer and becomes a secondary strategic target for Iranian coastal missiles. In previous conflicts, the military command accepted this extreme risk because there was no alternative to bring the soldiers back home, but the game has changed. The United States didn't send sailors into the slaughter. They activated the ghost army that was already set up right under the noses of the Iranians. Do you agree with this strategy of removing the human element from the front line in the most dangerous place on the planet? Comment now if you prefer to see robots or soldiers in this conflict zone. Because the revelation that marks the turning point of this crisis goes by the name Task Force 59. Don't think of this task force as a group of sailors swabbing decks in Bahrain. Task Force 59 is the Advanced Artificial Intelligence Laboratory of the U.S. Fifth Fleet. They've spent the last few years seeding the Persian Gulf with invisible sensors and unmanned vessels, turning the seafloor into an aquarium, smart and monitored in real time by deep learning algorithms. And within Task Force 59's quiver of tools, there are systems that seem straight out of a military science fiction manual. The first is the Lamprey, a digital underwater leech that attaches itself to the hulls of enemy submarines and ships. Silently, it records the acoustic signature and tracks the route back to the hidden base of origin before unscrewing itself and floating back down to the ocean floor. The second is the Manta Ray. More than a vehicle, it's a silent observer, a reconnaissance unit that spends weeks motionless on the seabed, consuming minimal energy and collecting satellite data every time it points its antenna to the surface. But the real protagonist of the rescue was the robotic surface vessel. An autonomous vessel that crossed the Iranian minefield without hesitation, guided by lines of code that processed thousands of navigational variables per second. What will remain of Iran's intimidation tactics against unarmed commercial ships when all foreign patrols have been replaced by swarms of robotic boats equipped with automatic weapons and integrated intelligence? Well, the rescue unfolded with the precision of a surgeon operating remotely while the hospital waiting room is on fire. The Task Force 59's robotic boat sailed toward the coordinates of the surviving pilots using a set of high-resolution optical and thermal sensors. The vessel's AI identified the heat signature of the life jackets in the darkness of the Persian Gulf, ignoring the thermal noise caused by waves and floating debris. The machine calculated the ideal approach, compensating for the wind force and the current to park the metal hull just centimeters away from the exhausted aviators. The scene captured by the surveillance cameras is cinematic. The two worn-out American pilots, after 2 hours of floating under the imminent risk of capture, see a steel structure emerge from the shadows of the night. The silence of the robot boat's electric motor was more frightening than the noise of the Iranian speedboats crossing the horizon. There were no human faces on board. There were no shouted commands or sailors' hands reaching over the rail. There was only the subtle sound of the electric motors, mechanical support arms, and automated access ladders designed to retrieve personnel from the water. The IAR picked up the survivors, locked the armored protective hatches, and began the return journey to Oman at maximum speed, performing autonomous evasive maneuvers to avoid the Mosquito fleet patrols that swept through the area blind. Iran was defeated. They hunted for hostages and found only a foamy wake left by a machine that travels without fear of death. My friends, the geopolitical impact of this event establishes a new dividing line in the history of the war of attrition. What happens to Middle Eastern geopolitics when Task Force 59's robot boats stop just picking up wounded pilots and start receiving remote authorization to open fire? Well, Iran has spent the last few decades believing that it held the key to the world's choke point because it was willing to accept the human cost of losing dozens of speedboats to sink a Western ship. They played the card of American public outrage over the loss of their sailors' lives, but the algorithm doesn't cry. The algorithm doesn't generate funerals with folded flags, and the metal code doesn't ask for political authorization to carry out the mission. Iran thought it had absolute control of Hormuz with its Mosquito fleet. They didn't know the Allied forces brought digital insecticide. The real checkmate that this technology imposes on the Ayatollah's regime is the destruction of their bargaining power. President Donald Trump was direct in his public statement. The pilots are safe, no one was injured, and the way they were extracted made military history. The White House showed that it can maintain the oil export blockade against Iran without putting the life of a single crew member at risk in contested waters. If the Revolutionary Guard boats try to escalate the conflict, the American response will be to deploy swarms of autonomous boats equipped with automated machine guns and directed energy weapons, fighting the Persian swarm with decentralized artificial intelligence. The political value of Tehran's threats has evaporated in the waters of the Gulf. But if you think Iran is the only one trembling at this robotic rescue, look at what's happening right now in the Taiwan Strait. This new military reality has already spread across half the planet and taken hold in the Far East. While the robots of Task Force 59 were clearing the Persian Gulf, the Chinese Navy launched a massive intimidation operation in the Far East, using warships and military aircraft to surround and shadow the Dutch frigate Trump as it passed through the international waters of the Taiwan Strait. The monitoring recorded the passage of more than 200 Beijing aircraft entering the Taiwanese Air Defense Identification Zone, in a show of force that attempts to normalize territorial control through saturation and repeated encirclement exercises. Taiwan's response was to activate a multi-billion-dollar emergency budget aimed at acquiring state-of-the-art weapons and automated monitoring systems. Western military intelligence understood that China's strategy is identical to Iran's, but on an industrial scale, using the weight of numbers to overwhelm the opponent's defense. And this is where fourth-dimensional engineering comes in. The Pentagon is accelerating projects like the reusable hypersonic planes developed by DARPA, designed to fly above Mach 5 and eliminate the need for human pilots in operational environments. Protected by high-density defenses, the 21st century has marked the end of the era of flesh and blood troops on the front lines. Authoritarian empires are about to collide with a wall of silicon and titanium alloy that operates seamlessly from Hormuz to Taipei. The truth has a strength that no state propaganda can distort, and the rescue carried out autonomously in Hormuz proved that control over the world's strategic choke points does not last. It no longer belongs to those who have more men willing to die, but to those who have the best line of code and the fastest target processing speed. And you can see exactly what I said in Ukraine. Putin has more men. Putin sends more men to the front line. But he's been stuck for more than 4 years in 19th century trenches. My friends, the electronic siege has closed in on the ambitions of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. If the Ayatollah's regime insists on testing the limits of the economic blockade through provocations by its Mosquito fleet, the autonomous platforms will continue systematically clearing the export routes until Tehran's power of coercion is reduced to absolute zero. The future has arrived, and it is controlled by algorithms that do not hesitate in the face of danger. And in the face of all this combat autopsy and artificial intelligence engineering, I ask you a question. A direct one to separate the real analysts from the spectators who only watch the surface of the news. Do you believe that this unprecedented rescue by a robot boat is the ultimate triumph of technology that has eliminated human risk in war? Or was it an emergency strategic maneuver because the West knows it can't sustain the political cost of new hostages in Iran's hands? If you see this change as a victory for autonomous engineering, write the word technology in the comments. But if you see the move as a political maneuver to protect the White House negotiations, comment strategy. Now leave your verdict and post your analysis right below in the comments. I will read each one to understand how you think and bring you new facts afterward. Now, we don't just make cheerleading videos. Now, yes, my friends, later that night, Donald Trump weighed in and gave the verdict. The helicopter was shot down by Iran. Yes, my friends, we still don't have much information or many details about how this happened. But as soon as the reports arrive at our bunker, I'll bring them here step by step, explaining how this happened. Now, the truth is, my friends, you can't let... Depender dos canais tradicionais da grande mídia. You can't let... Remember, friends, it's about not forgetting what you should remember happened. Now, remember... Now the truth is, you can remember the truth, friends, about remembering. You can't stop yourself from remembering. And if you want access to command level depth without censorship, without filters, and without that handbook of lies chewed up by armchair editors, you need to be part of our bunker. Click right now on the link pinned in the first comment and in the description of this video to check out our exclusive strategic intelligence platform and our private channel protected from censorship. You know that here we're on rented ground, but inside you join more than 3,000 elite analysts who understood that information free from state manipulation has a cost and decided to support independent and truthful information. Use the QR code that's appearing on your screen and come join our community. And for those of you who enjoy movies and series, we've created a fantastic channel. And the idea is that you don't waste any more time on Netflix or Amazon flipping through to find a good movie or series. And in the end, you spend hours and end up finding something terrible. Full of woke culture, full of whining that only serves to waste your time. And with that in mind, we're bringing you some tips. Brand new cool tips on what to watch. Stop wasting time. So our channel with tips on series and movies for you to enjoy with your family is linked in the pinned comment and in the video description. And now a podcast card will pop up for you, which we recorded about a hardcore series that's burying political correctness. Look, click and come check out this Rancho series. Danton, okay? So I'll be waiting for you there. Now the best part of our video. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, leave your like on the video and post your mind. I'm Shimon Oliveira and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.